Before you leave, will you give your mama one last big hug?
Come on, don't watch it.
After a great catastrophe, the souls of Ne Zha and Ao Bing are saved, but their bodies face ruin. To give them new life, they turn to the mystical seven-colored lotus in a daring bid to rebuild them and change their fate. In theaters this week, the movie is Ne Zha 2. It's directed by Yu Yang. It's not rated, but Common Sense Media says it's okay for ages 13 and up. Hi, I'm Mr. F, a former ELA teacher turned film critic. Welcome to the show where I smash my love of cinema together with the fun of figurative language. Today's show is brought to you by alliteration. Alliteration happens when a group of nearby words start with the same sound. Lots of movie titles use alliteration. For example, Batman Begins, The Fast and the Furious, Five Nights at Freddy's. And screenwriters love giving characters alliteration names. Some examples include Miles Morales, Wonder Woman, and Clark Kent. I'm going to take my biggest takeaway from Ne Zha 2 and use alliteration to talk about it. So my biggest takeaway from Ne Zha 2 is that the world the film takes place in is absolutely incredible. It looks beautiful. The size of it is just on such an epic scale. It's a massive accomplishment from all of these artists and animators. So when I first started writing my review, I had this sentence in there. The world is enormous and beautiful. And I'm going to use alliteration to make that sentence better, to make it catchier, to make it a lot more memorable. Here's how you do that. When it comes to alliteration, your best friend is a thesaurus. There's no shame in using one. I use it all the time. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to look up the word enormous in the thesaurus. That rhymes. I'm going to look up the word beautiful in the thesaurus. I'm going to look at my list and see if I can find words that start with the same sound. So what I'm looking to do is I'm looking to replace the words enormous and beautiful with words that have the same sound at the start of them. That's what alliteration is. So my first thought was I'm going to use gorgeous and gigantic. Watch out though. For alliteration, remember it's got to be the same sound at the start of the word, not the same letter necessarily. And gigantic and gorgeous start with a soft G and a hard G. Those are two different sounds, so that doesn't count as alliteration. I also thought about taking the word enormous, just keeping it and matching it with exquisite. The problem with that is, for some reason, it doesn't count as alliteration if your two words start with a vowel sound, A-E-I-O-U. Why? I have no idea why that's a rule. You know, sometimes alliteration feels like the offsides rule in soccer. Like the rule itself is basic enough, but there's so many exceptions and technicalities that it can make it confusing to fully understand sometimes. So I think I'm down to a couple choices. I could go with gargantuan and gorgeous. I could go with massive and magnificent, but I'm actually going to go with mammoth and magnificent. And I'm going with mammoth and magnificent for two reasons. One, it just sounds the best out of all those options to me. I may not sound the best to you, but it does to me. It's my review. That's what I'm going to use. The second reason I'm going with, especially the word mammoth, is because when I think of a mammoth, I think of a woolly mammoth, which is an ancient, very bizarre looking creature. And you know what they have a lot of in Ne Zha 2 is ancient looking, bizarre looking creatures. So it kind of matches the film's vibe. So yeah, I'm going to go with mammoth. I'm also going to make one more change. Instead of saying the movie's world is, okay, is a kind of a boring verb, okay? If you want to make your writing a little more memorable, better sounding, you want to have people or things doing things instead of just saying things are or this thing is. So instead of saying the movie's world is, I'm going to have someone doing something. I'm going to say the artists make a mammoth and magnificent world. And actually even make is a little basic. Here's what I think. I'm going to go with imagine. It doesn't count as alliteration, but it's got that M sound in the middle, which I kind of like. So let's look at my original sentence and my new sentence. First sentence is the world is enormous and beautiful. My new sentence is the artists imagine a mammoth and magnificent world. Personally, I think that's an upgrade. I love my new sentence. I think it sounds a lot better, and I think my audience will remember it a lot better as well. Now, I used alliteration in the other parts of my review. Here they are real quick. In story, which by the way gets a B- for Ne Zha 2, I talk about how there's a lot going on, that the story is super complex. So my original sentence is, the large number of characters, the vast amounts of worlds, and the mythical references can add up to a lot of overwhelm. So what I did is I looked at the phrase mythical references and I thought, what other words are there for references? Maybe there's a good one that starts with M, and I found mentions. Okay, so I changed my sentence originally to the mentions of myths instead of mythical references, but then I made one more little change and I added the word many to many mentions of myths. It's like bonus alliteration. I got one more in there. So my new sentence is, the large number of characters, the vast amounts of worlds, and the many mentions of myths can add up to a lot of overwhelm. In people, which for Ne Zha 2 gets a B, I talk about how almost every character has a duality to them. Most of them aren't just one thing, and that complexity makes the movie a lot more interesting. My original sentences are fire and water, good and evil, artistic skill, and flatulence. See, there's this giant pig in the movie who's an amazing sculptor, but also farts a lot. And if you don't know, the scientific term for farting is flatulence. So again, I go to the thesaurus and I look up words for skill, and I found the word finesse. So here are my new sentences. Fire and water, good and evil, finesse, and flatulence. I love the way that sounds. In film nerd stuff, which for Ne Zha 2 gets an A, way to go, I'm talking about what I talked about before, how incredibly detailed, deep, and disarming this animated world is. So again, the artists imagine a mammoth and magnificent world. For one big lesson, which I'm going to give Ne Zha 2 a B, I wanted to talk about immortality. You know, the film talks about immortality a lot, and there's a really interesting idea that the film explores. It's, you know, what matters more? Is it the amount of time you live, or is it the way you spend that time that you've got? So here's a sentence from that part. Living forever is a pretty common wish, but the movie asks us to rethink whether it's a goal shooting for. So this time I didn't use my thesaurus. I just looked at the end of the sentence where it says it's a goal worth shooting for, and I just rephrased it. I was going to say it's a goal worth going after. So I've got the goal and the going, making that alliteration. Okay, so a very tiny difference, but one that I think my audience will probably appreciate. Okay, so that's how I use alliteration to talk about movies. Now I want to hear how you use alliteration to talk about the movies. So what have you been watching lately? Did you see Ne Zha 2? Did you see another movie recently? Did you watch a show? Is it new? Is it old? Whatever it is you've been watching, what I want you to do in the comments below is I want you to either write a one-sentence review or just one thought you had about what you watched that uses alliteration. Put it in the comments below, and I will share some of my favorites in the next show. All right, here are my final thoughts and final grade for Ne Zha 2. Ne Zha 2 is a film bursting with ideas and imagination. At times, it can feel like too much of a good thing, but once you surrender to the alliteration alert, film's vibrant, vivacious vibe, you'll find yourself more than happy to ride along. Ne Zha 2's final grade is a B+. You can head over to the website to read the full report card review for Ne Zha 2 and other things I've been watching. The website is mrfdigsmovies.com. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate having you all here. If you want to support us, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, share it with a friend. In fact, share it with your ELA teacher, and that way you can help us with our mission to teach ELA using the movies and shows you love. We'll see you next time.